high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
The American bison. These powerful animals surround the weak members of their herd when threatened. I got vaccinated against COVID-19.
To protect those who can't do it themselves.
Me too.
And me.
Like the bison, we can protect those who can't help themselves. Get vaccinated today to stop the spread. Protect your herd. Brought to you by the McGizzy Communications and the Minnesota Department of Health.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies overnight with a low around 13 below, Thursday sunny with a high near 0, and Friday sunny with a high around 17. The Great Wall Restaurant in Edina provides a delicious taste of Szechuan and Mandarin cuisine. They have some delicious meat and seafood options, plus veggies, fried rice, and noodles. The Great Wall Restaurant's located just north of 50th and France on the Edina-Minneapolis border. Order online at greatwalledina.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
I'm awake. And I'm out here in Devil Radio in Madison, Wisconsin, in their mothership, and live from you all over Turtle Island. As you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. And this portion is brought to you by Alliant Energy. Ogama, are you ready with the news here? Because you're listening to Native Roots Radio, and this is the news you don't hear anywhere else. Ogama, come in, please.
Hey, Robert, can you hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Ogama, awesome. I can hear you too. I could hear everybody.
Hey, Wendy.
Hey, Wendy. Okay, just making sure you're on the phone too. I thought you might be ordering some food for us, but I'm not there.
All right, well, if we're ready, I do have some news here from Minnesota on the Line 3 protests and items that are going on for the beginning of the year. So if you are interested in protecting water and taking your time to be involved, there are a lot of Minnesota and Wisconsin events coming up in the next 2 weeks for you to make your voice heard on the dangers of the tar sands oil pipelines running through Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Coming up on Friday, January 21st, is the 1-year anniversary of Enbridge piercing a major artisan aquifer in Clearbrook, Minnesota, in its haste to build Line 3. And Indigenous organizations, environmentalists, and concerned citizens are going to gather in 2 locations this Friday in northern Minnesota and in the Twin Cities to commemorate the breach and call on Minnesota government officials to prosecute Enbridge and fix the breach, which is still hemorrhaging water after the most severe drought in northern Minnesota that depleted tons of natural water resources in Minnesota. To date, they believe that anywhere between 100,000 and 2.4 million gallons of water are still gushing out of the aquifer with no apparent fix. 2 other aquifer breaches have also been identified by the Minnesota DNR, although their locations have not yet been disclosed publicly by the Minnesota DNR. So, this Friday morning, there will be a press conference from the Twin Cities, and that is going to be starting at 11 a.m. It's going to be at the DNR offices at 500 Lafayette Road in St. Paul, Minnesota. Speakers at that event are going to include Simone Senecals of the Indigenous Environmental Network, Ron Turney, independent Indigenous researcher, Karen Wadena, who's an Indigenous elder from the Nadawash community and council chairwoman there, John Goodwin of Rise Coalition, and Frank Bebo from the White Earth Nation and attorney for Honor the Earth.
You guys.
And then the Winona LaDuke. I'm sorry. Those speakers are going to be at the Clearbrook terminal at 1 p.m. Excuse me about that. So in the Twin Cities, speakers are going to be Winona LaDuke, Executive Director at the Honor the Earth, Frank Hornstein of the Minnesota House of Representatives, Julia Nurburn from Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, Jeffrey Broberg, who is an independent geologist, and Minnesota Senator John Marty has been invited. We'll see if he's available to join. In the Twin Cities, again, that's going to be 11 a.m. at the DNR offices. If you're in northern Minnesota, the event is going to be meeting at the Enbridge Clearbrook terminal at 1 p.m., which is at 17816 470th Street, Clearbrook, Minnesota. There is a Facebook event on Honor the Earth, I believe, for both of these events, if you want to go check out what's going on with those events. And for those of you, who are tuning in from Wisconsin, the same company that has done all of the damage in Minnesota is coming to, I guess not coming to, but setting forth to do the same thing in Wisconsin. On February 2nd, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources is going to be holding a public hearing on the proposed reroute of Enbridge Energy's Line 5. This is the exact same thing that they did in Minnesota. They rerouted or moved the Line 3 pipeline. Line 5 cuts across the heart of the Bad River Reservation, where it's continuing to operate despite ongoing litigation. And Enbridge is also operating Line 5 without permits in the under the Straits of Mackinac, where they have refused to reply with a government order from the governor of Michigan to shut down. So what happens with Line 5 is that Line 5 puts the Great Lakes in danger, which is a fifth of the world's fresh water. So it is especially crucial for our relatives in Wisconsin to take the time to figure out how they need to make change and talk about what the impacts of Line 5 are going to be. So tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. online, Shut Down Line 5 Protect the Water is having a Zoom event where you can join community members to learn more about Enbridge's Line 5 impacts. And on next Thursday, January 27th from 7 to 8:30 p.m., there is another online event from Shut Down Line 5 Protect the Water that you can register for, which will teach you the basics of Enbridge's Line 5 tar sands pipeline, as well as how to testify at the upcoming virtual DNR hearing on February 2nd. Those are 2 really great events you can talk about. And Robert, I'm going to bring it back here with this Tamarack mining project in Minnesota. It's, kind of one of those things. So Tesla, the company that makes the electric cars, wants to use Talon Metal Corp to build an underground mine in Minnesota that would operate for 9 years and extract primarily nickel, but also some copper, cobalt, platinum group metals, and iron. The minpost.com did a really great article talking about how the big selling point right now is that the several proposed copper and nickel mines in Minnesota has been that the metal could possibly help power green technology like solar panels, electric vehicles, and windmills, because a lot of those metals are used in production of electric vehicle batteries. However, it's hard to quantify. Basically, Twin Metals said in August that it was looking into the possibility of supplying an electric vehicle manufacturer with its project near Ely, Minnesota. And Twin Metals can't assure that's going to happen. They basically said that the products they're going to be mining are going to go on the world market. And for Talon Metal Corp, the company says that they have a project in much earlier stages of development, meaning they have not even gotten permits for it yet. And they announced ahead of even asking for the permits for their project that they have already signed an agreement to supply Tesla with nickel for the batteries for their vehicles. So it's interesting that these mines are going to be promoted as somehow, I guess, a green solution, especially considering that these mines in Minnesota and elsewhere have been proven to be highly toxic. There's a lot of runoffs and dust that gets into the environment surrounding these mines. Polymet in northern Minnesota has been in the environmental review and permitting processes for 17 years and is facing lawsuits that could still set their project back. And Tesla's coming in to hope that they're going to get these metals out of Minnesota. And, we're talking about batteries that, theoretically could be made out of different things.
Like hemp, maybe?
Yes, hemp, lithium, and iron. Yep. Are some other alternatives, and electric vehicle manufacturers worldwide are still just hunting for nickel and cobalt. And, it breaks my heart that these companies that we had a lot of hope for, like Tesla and other electric vehicle manufacturers, are really not doing their due diligence to make sure that the products that they are using to create these things actually do help the environment. So, it's kind of like robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Is that how that statement goes?
Yep, it definitely does. Wow.
Yep.
Well, Ogama Pinigigi, thank you so much for your news and also insight. Wendy, I see you're holding down the fort there. Really appreciate it. And we'll be right back after this short break. We're going to be checking in with Griselda and at Alliant with Alliant, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Nation.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
I probably could take the feed down a little bit. It's a little distorted.
Don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
They said everything sounds good in their
My
end,
name is
but
George McCauley, Omaha, Michigan.
I got
I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-444-9986.
This sounds all right, but when Olga was talking, she was really distorted.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with the Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to help Twin Cities American
This is so sensitive.
hotline. They provide
Maybe I'll turn that down a little bit and then turn your feed
booster
up.
shots and
Well, that's what was distorted, but go ahead.
now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those.
Now it sounds good.
The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
They can hear us.
Oh, your microphone is down, so if they can, it's through your laptop.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakan Jahade. Hey, we're really excited to have Griselda on again with Alliant Energy. Really good to see you. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and tell us your name and what you do.
Hi everyone. Hi Robert. Hi everyone on the phone and listening. Griselda Aldrete, Director of Stakeholder Engagement with Alliant Energy, helping to manage our rural broadband efforts along with our relationships with our different nonprofit groups, legislators, regulators, and equally as important, our tribal members in our Wisconsin and Iowa communities. So thanks for having me, Robert.
Yeah, Peeny Gigi for being on. I'm a little discombobulated here. I'm in Madison in a different studio, and it's bright and everything, but it's really good to have you on. And let's talk a little bit about broadband. I know last time we talked about how you can save energy, but let's talk about what's happening with your organization and about with broadband.
Well, I feel like our topic from last session is still timely, right? Because it's so cold and you can't escape winter. And today is extremely brutally cold. But yeah, since I would say for the last 2 to 3 years, Alliant Energy has been looking at broadband and how do we play a role in bridging the digital divide. And I think with COVID, right, that we were kind of thrusted into doing a lot of our work and engagement and interaction with. We had to speed up our sort of involvement and figuring out how we can play in that middle mile space to provide quality, reliable access to broadband to our rural communities and most marginalized communities as well.
Yeah, so, I think the government is really trying to help us out, our communities help us out. And I know with working with an organization and company like you, Alliant, we really need to work together and figure out how we can make broadband accessible to everybody. And I really appreciate you and you stepping up and doing that. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess it would be talking to nations like Ho-Chunk Nation and other Native nations in Wisconsin specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think broadband is such a broad topic, right? And I think we've all kind of heard, sort of like the government and, our elected officials are talking about broadband and bridging the digital divide and providing access. But, what does that really mean? And I think, the lens that I'm hoping that our company looks at, which is looking at and kind of engaging in these conversations, is how does this fit into our overall environmental justice and equity pieces that we're trying to do? Because this isn't something we view this as a necessity now, much like heat, electricity, right? Like, I think, I've done when I do sometimes when I go talk to different communities, I just ask a simple question. How many people pre-COVID had broadband and access to Wi-Fi at home? And if people aren't raising their hands, you realize that it's sort of that's an inequity, right? We took for granted that we could be at home working from home, but what about all those community members that had to be out working? How many people were displaced if they couldn't work from home? And that's privilege, right? And I think we have to be able to talk about those things and how they relate to our everyday lives. And so, aside from I would say the engineering pieces of what it takes to provide quality, reliable broadband for us to even be doing this radio show, there's also the equity piece of, it's not just like if we give you a laptop that communities know how to use them and then they know how to make them use them for education, telemedicine, telehealth. It's also that digital literacy piece and component that we're embedded into our efforts as well. And I think, we have to make sure that no community gets left behind when we are looking at this issue. And I think it's easy to go to, I would say, the places and communities where there's more population, where there's money and dollars. But I think, where we come in is we want to go to where our customers are, and that's rural Wisconsin, rural Iowa. I mean, low income rural communities that need the support, because this is also, I see it as an economic issue, right? We need people to kind of get education, get access to healthcare, and have access to quality jobs as well.
Yeah, and it's great. Can you talk a little bit about what you do for Alliant too? Because I think that's the key piece that like nations like Ho-Chunk and other Native nations in Wisconsin really need to understand your capacity. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my role at Alliant is new. So I've been with the company about a year and a half, and really it's to look at how do we make sure our regulators, right, our legislative bodies, our elected officials, our community, our foundation are talking the same language. And it's really with, it is customer focused, but it does vary depending on the communities that we're serving, but never forgetting that it's about not just diversity, equity, inclusion to just say the words, but it's like, it really is like how we do our work and how we talk about energy, sustainability, and access is kind of at the forefront of what we're looking at. And I feel very lucky to be handling the broadband piece because it is exciting, right? And it is allows us to have these conversations about access and equity in a very different way that isn't just the buzzwords, I say. It's not just D&I, right? It's actually like putting action into the products and services that we're trying to offer for our community members.
Well, what do you say to tribal members that would say, "Well, I really don't trust big companies," and what do you say to Native governments and also our BIPOC people?
I mean, I think it all starts with trust, right, and showing up. And I think that that's the piece where my role is relationship management, ownership, but also kind of like bringing people to have conversations that normally don't usually get to sit in the same room and begin to build that trust. I think the first steps are even you invited me to be a part of the show, right? And me actually showing up and helping to just have honest dialogue. Me following up with you, Robert, members from the tribal nations, and figuring out where is our common ground? What is it that we're trying to accomplish, and how are we going to get there? And it probably doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's the other thing with where we are in the world today. When people just like to throw from buzzwords, they expect immediate results, right? And I think a lot of this stuff just begins with trust. And figuring out how we can work together. And what's the common goal? Is the common goal to get more people to work? Is the common goal access to quality education, healthcare, or just the betterment of our communities? And I think once you start there, then you can begin to build from there. But if you don't have trust, I think that's where things can get lost in translation. And I know that, I think even just acknowledging that the tribal communities are equally as important as our BIPOC community or any other community, and that we can't forget to have those conversations or just lump everyone together, right? Assuming that we all want the same things.
Yeah.
Not all Latinos, not all women want the same things, right? So I think we make those generalizations a lot of times when you are looking at different groups.
Right. And boy, have we really found out we really need, since COVID, we really need broadband everywhere. It's just an amazing predicament that this COVID pandemic is really showing us, those inequities all across Turtle Island.
And the challenge with broadband when we're looking at it too is how we designate need and access. So the way we gather our data now is through census blocks. Well, we know there's all kinds of issues with the census. We're not going to get into that right now, right? And how we label people and try to classify things. But that's where we get our information from right now in America through census blocks. So for example, if you're looking at a block, so a zip code, and one or two households have access to broadband, then that whole block is deemed as having access when you really don't, if that makes sense, or the quality of it. And so even when people are asking, like, how do you choose to go to the communities? We're still doing our own research and trying to figure out how we demystify the way we're being lumped together in communities, even just from an access perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And then we haven't even really talked about, but solar energy, wind energy, all those things that Alliant could help people like our nation and other nations, because even if you want to become your own company, so to speak, you really need to partner with these other companies to make it happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we know we're not going to solve the digital divide as Alliant Energy alone, right? We're going to need partnerships. We're going to need other people to come to the table with not just money, but resources, ideas to figure out how we're going to really make a dent. Because I love when I see announcements that broadband dollars are out there, right? Infrastructure bill. I love seeing those announcements, but I'm more like, okay, so what are we doing with that? And how are we going to tackle and get a piece of the pie and then make that sustainable? Because as we all know, right, depending on just government dollars isn't a sustainable idea, because they'll switch the funding as they see fit in different agendas, right? And this is a long issue that our communities are going to have to live with. I don't see technology going anywhere, right? We're going to need it for the long term.
It's everything. We got a couple minutes left here. What else do you want to tell our listening audience all over Turtle Island? And, we're in Milwaukee now, too, which we're really excited. And I'm here in Madison. Ogama is in Bemidji, and Wendy's in the Twin Cities. And, what can you tell us as just a general thing about what you can do and how you can help us?
So we have, people can look at some of the work we're doing, alliantenergy.com/broadband. There we try to provide resources for if there's, different funding available. We're getting ready to launch a computer recycling program, so people will be able to apply for, the equipment, the computer that we are donating, to make sure that people can have different type of access, and just staying informed. In March, we'll have a broadband speaker series. So part of what we're trying to do is just educate the public of how we can help make broadband available to all, but then use it for the greater good, I would say. I know that sounds easy, but it's the truth.
No, but that sounds great. And people aren't experts. You guys are the experts, and hopefully you can help nations and people maneuver through this broadband weave. I really appreciate you being on. We can't wait to have you on again. And thank you so much for being on. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short message.
Gracias.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's State Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. Watch live Monday, January 24th at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page. Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Tune in Monday at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
Aho, relatives. My name is George McCauley, Umaha Nation. I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska, but reside in the Twin Cities area. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Those 65 and over are recommended to receive their booster dose. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. So get your booster shot to make sure you stay safe and healthy this winter. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-304-9986 or go to this website, vaccineconnector.mn.gov. 651-304-9986 or go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
This is Santita Jackson. Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central, we'll bring you the best progressive talkers, thinkers, and doers on AM 950, Minnesota's progressive voice.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Is your remote workforce putting your company at risk? Cyber criminals are targeting your employees with COVID-19 inspired emails and attacking businesses like yours. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. Rymark has the tools and expertise to enable your employees to work securely from home. If you need help getting your staff to work remotely and securely, call 651-328-8900 or go to rymarkit.com. That's 651-328-8900 or rymarkit.com.
Taking prescription medication should not be a scary task. The staff at St. Paul Corner Drug makes certain you know everything about your prescription medication before you leave the pharmacy. Knowing what to expect and when and how to take your prescriptions gives you the confidence to safely take your medication and maintain good health. Should additional questions arise, we are here to help sort things out. St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be, at stpaulcornerdrug.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Shamblot from Shamblot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. And we'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblot Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblotfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for clear skies overnight with a low around 13 below. Thursday sunny with a high near 0. And Friday sunny with a high around 17. Well, these long, frigid nights are perfect for getting cozy with a new book from Next Chapter Booksellers. The friendly staff are great at making recommendations no matter your age and taste. Stop in at the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul or order just about any book online at nextchapterbooksellers.com. That's nextchapterbooksellers.com.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are hallucinating.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
All right, Wendy, good one. Hey, it's Wednesday, and it's a solar bear with the solar news, and we're always excited to hear from Bob Blake. And I always have to say, Bob Blake from Red Lake. I just love it. And we had a great conversation last week about our Uncle Clyde, but also we were also both on another radio show through the Ampers Network and talking about our uncle. And I just want to say to you, after listening to that, really good words and really heartfelt. Welcome, Mr. Blake.
Oh yeah, wow! What a legend! What just a pillar of the community. He's really going to be truly missed, Robert. But it's so interesting because we've got so many connections to him, and it's so cool to see so many people doing the work that he has championed for all these years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, there were so many people on Facebook that I've seen that I know are working in nonprofits and doing really good work for the community. And I just feel like, I don't know, I'm just really proud of our community and how far we've come in the work that we've done. And there's always room for improvement, right? There's always room for we can always do more, right? I get that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think that the work that I see a lot of us doing out here now is just so inspiring, and so many new leaders are coming, and then just to see them on that collection of people who are talking about Clyde was so cool. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And there, like you said, there are a lot of people that have picked up the baton and will be picking up the baton. But you're right. There is a good collection now of people that are doers. Wendy always talks about there's doers out there. And you're absolutely right, Bob.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. His legacy lives on through all of us. You know what I mean? And the work that we're continuing doing. So I'm so proud of our community and what we're doing. And how we're pushing the envelope, and I suspect Clyde would be too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. He's loved our work over the radio over the years too, and I know that by talking to him. And these are things, and I know you'll get into the solar news here, but these are things that our relatives really prayed about not that long ago. I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, not long at all.
Yeah, and I was really thankful for to be with you for those couple of times to be with him, and then I seen him another time too, and stopped by the the interpretation center there, right there, and by Maria's Cafe, and swung in and talked to him for a little while. But and I was telling him exactly what I was doing and what I was trying to accomplish. And, he was just so supportive. And I don't think those are the things that like people don't hear, right? Like, oh, like we all kind of went to Clyde, like just on the side, like, hey, can I get your blessing? Like this is what I'm trying to do. I don't know if it's gonna work, but and he was just so what do you call it? So like, just encouraging. And of course I loved it because he would tell me a story about my brother, or he would talk about my cousin Steve. And it's so cool to hear those stories because they're both gone now.
Yeah.
And they were gone at the time. And it was just nice to hear those stories about them and how much Clyde respected my brother and my uncle, or my cousin.
Right. And everyone out there, Bob and I are having a personal conversation, but we're talking about Clyde Belcourt. If you're wondering who Uncle Clyde, and who had just passed away a week and a half ago. So that's who we're talking about. So Bob, do you have any solar news for us?
I do have some solar news. And there is a building in Taiwan, okay? And it's called the Sun Rock, all right? And it's this massive building, and it's completely covered in solar panels. And get this, Robert, get this. This thing looks like the U.S. Bank Stadium. I swear. It looks like the U.S. Bank Stadium. But it's actually covered in solar panels. And it's about 1 million kilowatt hours of clean energy a year that it's going to produce. So that is the equivalent of burning 85 tons of crude oil.
Wow.
This building is going to be creating energy, and I don't know, it's going to be really cool. And I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, why couldn't we have like covered US Bank Stadium with a bunch of solar panels? I mean, if like the team is going to lose, at least we could like get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Well, and I just got to jump in there about that atrocity about it being a bird killer and all these glass and killing hundreds and hundreds of birds a day. I just will not step foot into that stadium. And I don't think I'll be as severe as become a Packers fan, but it'd be pretty close.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you said it right there. I mean, and not to mention that thing keeps on falling apart, like the siding of it and everything. Like,
our Wisconsin listeners are laughing, I'm sure, going, "Oh my God, the team's falling apart."
The Viking fans are exactly complaining. So this guy named Larry Fink, Robert, is like this really huge investor on Wall Street. And he's like kind of like one of the guys that you kind of listen to on CNBC, Fox News Business. They're always interviewing him. Well, anyways, he's come out with just basically said it to everybody. And he said, the next 1,000 unicorns, which means like the next best bets, right? for your stock portfolio is in green energy companies. Meaning he's like, I don't care what you do. If you don't have, and he says in this interview, if you're not diversified into green energy, whatever it may be, then you're doing a disservice to your retirement. And he's like, so invest in green energy companies. This is where the industry is going, and this is what we're going to be investing in. So I thought that was really cool to see someone like him really promote green energy. And Robert, you're really starting to see a lot of money transfer from the oil industry into green stocks, into like investment places, and with that, they're investing in renewable energy projects. So I just think that's really cool that he said that this week, and it's encouraging.
Yeah, it is. It is very encouraging. And there's money out there too now with this CARES Act and the opera funds and all those things. There's money moving to this direction, and we're way behind when it comes to climate change and all that. But we need to move forward. So what else you got there, Robert?
Yeah. So another story coming out. It's they're called photovoltaics. It's basically solar panels that are put on lakes, that are put on riverbeds, that are put on, bodies of water, so to speak. And what they're saying is that this could reach globally 5 gigawatts of solar on our lakes and our rivers. In Minnesota, we're the land of 10,000 lakes. You know what I mean? Not only that, they're going to reflect the sunlight. So what's happening, Robert, is the sun is coming down on our lakes, and it's like turning them into like they're kill zones, like where our fish can't like survive and whatnot. And what these floating photovoltaic systems are going to do is they're actually going to protect the lakes from the sun while producing energy.
Wow.
So this is, to me, I think, a really good win. And I think that Minnesota having 10,000 lakes, I'm just saying this is another opportunity for us to go ahead and use our natural resources in a productive manner by producing energy and also saving our natural and wild habitat by, the sun. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We not only have 10,000 lakes, we have 10,000 treatment centers too. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but
okay, I'm going to stay away from that one.
No, but that's really good. That's really cool. And yeah, I mean, I can just picture it. And of course, right away, the reflection of the water and really cranking out those solar panels.
And another good story coming out is co-ops, right? Co-ops, which are, okay, so you have the investor-owned utilities, the IOUs, right? Which are like Xcel Energy, Con Edison, Pacific Gas and Electric. And then you have the co-ops, which are located, out in rural areas usually, right? These co-ops have been embracing renewables. They have been embracing solar farms. They've been producing solar farms. They've been producing, getting their customers over into renewables. And I think this is really interesting, Robert, because, these guys pay a hefty premium to buy that cold energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the North Dakota, and that goes into our co-ops, right? So, I think this is really cool. It's a good story, and I want to see more of these co-ops doing this. My last story, Robert, is this, and it's fertilizer, it's solar being used in farmland, so the evaporation of the solar takes out the fertilizer, right?
Wow.
And this is really cool, and I think this is going to be happening everywhere. I think this is going to be happening everywhere in farmland country where they're going to be doing this, and not to mention, there was over $1 billion in damage in crop, or like $6 billion in crop damage from weather last year. So I could see solar being a part of like the farmland and the farmscape. So everyone out there, when you're looking out at the farmland, don't be surprised if you start seeing solar on a lot of our farmland.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Bob, for stopping in again as usual. We really, really appreciate your good words and energy. It's always a great time seeing you. Peeny Gigi for being on. Right on. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next, we're going to have Wendy talking some sacred animals. We'll be right back. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's Sage Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. Watch live Monday, January 24th at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Tune in Monday at 7:30 p.m. on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Bijou, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, welcome, Wendy.
Yeah. Hi, I hope everybody could hear me okay. We're having tons of technical difficulties here today, but we're pushing through. My name is Hanaji Hihani, and that means cares for them, and I was given that name by my Dega, Curtis. As always, Curtis, thank you for that meaningful name. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. And that's a really awesome name for him as well. I don't know if everyone could see me. If you're watching on Facebook Live, I have a bandana scarf on here today. It's very pretty and colorful, and it is from our store, Native Roots Trading Post, which is on 700 Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis. The thing that I love most about these scarves and bandanas is, besides the beautiful colors and designs, is that each bandana has the artist's name on the scarf. So I love that. And this one that I have on today is designed by Kira Murillo. I'm not really sure where she's from, but her name is actually on the scarf. So that's what I really love about this. Robert, thanks so much for bringing up the U.S. Bank Stadium and the birds that are killed by that building. And since you did bring it up, I just want to talk about it briefly. When the stadium was originally built, it was going to cost them about $1 million extra to put reflective glass in the windows to help the birds recognize that this is not something to fly into, that the birds would be able to see the reflective glass and go around it. They spent, I don't know how many billions of dollars on this stadium. And go ahead, Robert.
1 billion. I just put 1 billion. It costs more to build that stadium than to go to Mars the first time.
Yeah. And right, just by saying that. So it costs $1 billion to build that stadium, and they refused to spend $1 million on the reflective glass. Now, this building, the U.S. Bank Stadium, is smack dang right in the middle of a corridor for migrational birds that migrate. And what they did was they had to hire people to go to the stadium every day and sweep up the dead birds before a game or a concert so that people wouldn't see all these dead birds. They actually did a study to figure out how many dead birds were reasonable. And I don't know what happened. All I do know is that they never did change the glass. And that Bob Blake said that the panels, and you can see the panels when you drive by the building, the panels the outside of the building is all black, and all the panels fell off. A lot of them did, and they replaced it, and they don't even match. It looks like a big mishmash of black and gray and dark black and light black. It's a mess. Anyway, so that's why Robert and I don't go to that stadium. We're kind of boycotting it forever, or until they change the glass to reflective glass. So yesterday on the show, I was talking about the Yellowstone National Park's beloved wolves and how they're being killed. And it was a post that I had from Howling for Wolves that they reposted from Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center. And I want to bring this up again because I found a New York Times magazine article that I'm going to refer to here in just a minute, but I want to step back and just reflect on what I talked about yesterday in case there's people out there who didn't hear. So 30 business owners who operate near or around Yellowstone National Park are calling on Department of Interior Secretary Deb Haaland to please reinstate the endangered species protection for the gray wolves. And these business owners are crying out, saying that the economic impacts to their business and livelihoods from Montana and Idaho's egregious new laws, which will allow the killing of 85% and 90% of the state's wolf population, is really going to impact their business, because the people who go there want to see the wolves. And if we don't have enough wolves for them to see, their businesses are going to be highly impacted. So I have this article here from New York Times. It's dated January 17th, and it's an opinion guest essay. This guy who wrote this article, though, his name is Thomas McNamee, but he's not just any Joe Schmo. Mr. McNamee is the author of nearly a dozen books, including 2 about wolves in the greater Yellowstone region of the West. So he's just not somebody off the street. He's a highly acclaimed writer. And he wrote this article on January 17th that's a slaughter of wolves like this hasn't been seen in a century. And I'm going to keep bringing this up until Deb Haaland gets her pen and signs the wolves back onto the Endangered Species Act. Livingston, Montana. A slaughter of wolves is underway in Montana, Wyoming, that has no precedent in the past 100 years. Hunters in Idaho can shoot or trap as many as they like year-round on private land. They can lure wolves within gun range by putting out bait, running them down to exhaustion using ATVs and snowmobiles, and stalk them after dark using night vision technology. Baiting and night hunting are also allowed on private land in Montana, where an individual can kill up to 20 wolves a year by hunting and trapping them. Both states allow bounty payments on dead wolves, which gives incentive to the bloodshed. In Wyoming, there is no limit on the number that can be killed across 85% of the state. This is all illegal. Lawmakers in those states have resumed their longstanding war on gray wolves now that the federal government no longer protects them as threatened with extinction in the region. In all 3 states, even wolf pups can be killed.
Wow.
In the face of this all-out assault, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced in September that it would begin a 12-month review to determine whether potential increases in human-caused mortality may pose a threat to the wolves, perhaps exacerbate by new, more permissive regulations in Idaho and Montana. Those 2 states are home to about 75% of the gray wolf population in the Northern Rockies. We shouldn't wait for this review to be completed to return these animals to federal protection. Wolves in the northern Rockies were exterminated in the early 20th century by federally sponsored predator control programs that were created in the mistaken belief that wolves would drastically reduce wild game and destroy the ranching industry. So I'm going to let you take over here, Robert. We have about a minute left, but I'm going to keep bringing up this subject because we really need everyone to please get in touch with Deb Haaland and ask her to please put these animals back on the endangered species list. And the more people who call her, hopefully it will happen.
Well, thank you, Wendy.
Close down the show.
Yeah, Pinigigi Wendy, thank you so much. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Pinigigi to Bob Blake from Red Lake, Ogama, and of course Wendy, and our special guest Griselda from Alliant Energy. We'll be back tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated.
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our